So yeah, you were asking about these orange boards, and you know, again, I like to give honor to those people. So the guy who saved my life when I broke my leg at by the point, Sam Pai, had a friend who, his cousin who lives up on Hakima Road, says, you know, Ian, calls me up one day, I know you're into surf culture. This brother's gonna, he's got to clear out this yard where he lives in, and this yard, it's got all these old surfboards in these containers. And so he's just got to throw them away, but even that's a huge job. So I was wondering if you like come out and help him take them away. And so I went out there and found these boards and heard the history behind them. These are the Waikiki surf rental boards of the 1960s. 1961, 62, there's a famous wrestler named Sammy Steamboat who had a beach services on Waikiki Beach, just like the Aikau family has the beach services over there. He called up his surfer friend from California, Ensenada, Lauren Whitey Harrison, is another famous pioneer. I think he's the guy who actually did the first tow-in behind a helicopter on a surfboard. There's some pictures of that somewhere. Looks like the scene from that old Batman movie, you know. But and how to make these boards. And back then, you know, there's this bad word called a pop out. Before they made custom polyurethane foam surfboards, they would build a big plaster mold of the surfboard shape that they think was the best. And what's clunky about that is every surfboard it's a production thing. Nowadays we got epoxy, we could do that in Thailand and China and pop out boards for Costco, but they're a lot more honed in. All the R&D has been done. Back then, these were the models, and this is what a tandem surfboard looked like back then. You know, see here's number 8. You can see there these boards that were in the container. They were going to be thrown away. They were at all levels of repair, and so somebody loved these surfboards and was repairing them and taking them down to Waikiki. Now, I can barely lift it myself. It's probably as heavy as my Ola, and this is a 12-foot tandem surfboard from that era. And you can see the foam. This was pour foam. So they build the mold, put the fiberglass on the bottom, pour the mold, close the mold, you know, and wrap the fiberglass on top and put a strip here. You can see the stripping going there. And this is back when it was the old D model fins. You can see this one still has the original D model fin. This one next to it, number 11, got a 70s board fin put on it, because I'm sure the other one, the most common ding you see is this kind. You can see where you know that somebody was surfing down the wave after being pushed and got blasted by the guy who was riding the wave, or by a random surfboard after the beginner fell off. Can you imagine learning on these boards? They were 10.6s and 9.6s, but I love this one, my favorite, because look, some Hawaiian, probably an instructor, loved this board so much that he made his own cutaway fin. Like he was experimenting with fins, probably in the late 60s before they came up with the, you know, 70s style fin. Yeah. I laugh. I ride 143 a lot. This is the one that I fixed up. It's still pretty darn heavy. And I was riding that a lot at like outside, you know, Rainbow's over here on the east side. There's no body, and that's got the modified fin on it, so it turned pretty well, you know what I mean. But these were the surf instruction boards of the 60s into the 70s. Now the story goes, and this is the tragic part about free, equal opportunity, commerce, and all that stuff, right? Somebody shows up from somewhere far away and says, no fare, I want in, but you're only giving 5 permits. How do I get a permit? And the old school Hawaiians say, well, I mean, our family's been on this beach for, well, why don't we say hundreds of years plus, or at least as recent as before anybody else came. And But back when it was just a Moana and the Royal Hawaiian, and then those few, there were, by the 50s and 60s, Fred Hemmings tells us that the beach was kind of, there was the Waikiki Beach Tavern crew, and those surfers did stuff there. And then there was groups, the Huinalu Canoe Club had their zone. You know, Sammy Steamboat was one of those guys who had his surf instructing zone. And it was, you know, it was a lucrative thing for them. But along comes this thing in the early 70s called Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation. And they decided they needed to create a fair way for people to be able to access this sort of income. And so it got taken out of the hands of those Hawaiian water men and women who had carried the tradition forward through the legacy of their families of ancient times. And the tragic story behind that is that they had a random lottery, and Sammy Steamboat, there was no grandfather clause. They just said there's whatever, 10 permits or however many there was, and that's it. And Sammy Steamboat, this famous Hawaiian wrestler, didn't get the permit. And so unfortunately, he had to pack up shop, took it all out to West Side, out onto Hakima Road, and where his family was living, and, you know, ended up with health issues and diabetes and the change in diet for Hawaiians, and got gout, and eventually he passed away and left all these boards behind. So, you know, free and fair, these kind of things, we really got to think about that in terms of keeping Hawaiians in their homes, keeping Hawaiians in the things that they're doing that were the traditions of the watermen and waterwomen of old. This ain't just surfing. It's part of an integrated tradition that was here long before commercial activities were here. You know, now even my brother's a surf instructor in Waikiki, and he's beloved. He's been doing it over 15, 20 years himself. So, you know, I believe there's space for everyone, but really got to respect and honor. And that's why I love Makaha so much, because the Keaulana family and the DeSotos and all of the families that have lived out there have kind of kept under there and say, come, you're welcome to. That was where the first international surfing contest is. And now, what's the other contest there? You know, you have Uncle Mel Pu'us, you have Uncle Buffaloes, and you have these very Hawaiian contests that it's really important to keep Hawaiians in their spaces so that we keep the aloha on the beach and here on Oahu, and we keep the people in their places who know about that place. Because once we flip that out to the next person who's got the more money, we're going to lose it all. So part of it is like, when are we going to pull the property taxes from the land values so that we don't get just chased out by the lack of ability to afford an ever-raising property tax? And those are something. But hey, before we go, I want you to think about this. Can you imagine being a keiki? And here, we'll pull out this one. If I can pull it out past the Costco board and the other board that we ride on. Look at that. This is what kids learn on these days. This is what they learned on back then. This is the most innovative keiki board. Can you imagine that? They were building 6-foot surfboards, and there's this logo right here, was one of the old original logos from Lauren Whitey Harrison. And I think this other board that's over here might even have, oh, oops. I'm a little worried about that. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. This one was obviously en route to repair, but Lauren Whitey Harrison hired this guy Fly to make and glass the surfboards, and that's the original logo out of Ensenada from 1960, early 60s. Why is there a 20 on it? Because our neighbors, their daughter, when my daughter graduated, that year, and so we wanted to have a 20 for the pictures for graduation.
Oh.
So they did that one quick one, and that was a really fun party.
Yeah.
Penny Dean and the Vitals played, and we all got up and sang and played and had some fun. But yeah, this is surf history, and so we were talking about strength versus weight. These are pop-outs. They eventually turned into regular boards. He ordered a bunch over the years. But what makes these boards so innovative is all the longboards of the day did not have this much nose rocker. But if you wanted to keep somebody on a wave without purling at Waikiki, you had to put nose rocker into it. And so Hoynes were way ahead of their time. And you know, surfers were way ahead of their time. Everything's been done before. Here's the scoop nose rocker of Kelly Slater on a board that was designed in the early in 1960s. I got 69 over there too. Watch out. All right, I got to end on the story that these boards, when I brought them here, I shared them with all the Hoynes here in Hakipu'u and all my friends around Kailua and stuff. You walk into Kalapawai in Kailua. My friend Kaleo took one and turned it into a table there in the back of Kalapawai. I've seen them everywhere, and I've seen them being sold and stuff like that. But my favorite story is the lifeguard who came over and said, you know, we're going to honor Duke Kahanamoku's sister. Can I grab one of these boards? We're going to have all the lifeguards sign it and give it to her on her birthday, her 80th birthday. So I'm like, yeah, choose one out, you know, and we used to have these racks and stacks of them. So we helped him find one, pulled out the board. I was like, cool, here you go. He took it and gave me a call after the party, and he said, you know, this story is amazing. I got to share it with you. He said, we signed the board, we made it all nice. We handed it to Duke's sister, and she started weeping. She was overwhelmed with joy. And what she said was this. She said, you know, this board, this was my number. I used to pull this board out of the surf racks in Waikiki to surf every single day. I went down there and surfed, and this was my number. How in the world? And that's the, you know, time keeps on flowing, slipping through the passage of night. And it's the way the universe works. We surf through space and time. We surf through life itself. And the universe is a beautiful place to be, and that full circle always comes around. So just share that aloha, and remember that's part of our surfing tradition here. So aloha.
Hey guys, Ramon here. Thank you all for tuning in to today's video. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell to stay up to date with what's happening here on Oahu. If you would like to watch more videos, check out our playlist. And last but not least, consider becoming a member of the Oahu Surf Films Ohana.